One of the interesting features of the Chanukah story is that a small group of um, fairly untrained soldiers, fighters, decide to take on the whole Greek Assyrian army in the area of Judea and won. And it's a fantastic story. The Chanukah story in itself is an amazing tale, but often it promotes ideas that if you really want something, you just need to go out and do it. But how do you know if you're being stupid or whether you're being heroic and brave? Because sometimes it looks like success is the arbitrator as to whether something is actually seen as being stupid and naive or whether something's seen as brave. If you achieve, then it's brave. And if you fail, well, you're stupid. So how do we actually make the decision for ourselves in our life when to act and do something or when to hold back from doing something? And when doing one of those two things is actually naive, stupid, and uninformed, which really comes to that level of questioning, which is when is it a time of thinking and when is it a time of doing? At what point does it become analysis paralysis? And at what point is it actually important research? So I want to just look at a couple elements within the Chanukah story so that I can point out how we can create a path of clarity for ourselves so that when we want to be heroic or when we need to be heroic, we know this is actually an appropriate time for heroism, despite the odds, despite the statistics, despite the analysis, and when actually those odds, statistics, and analysis actually should dominate our decision-making process. The Maccabees as people and the Hashmonai family who formed that Maccabee army, that little warrior group, were deeply committed Jewish people who were priests. They were Kohanim in the temple. And what they were doing was not actually a battle against the Greek Assyrian occupation. It wasn't against their military. It was a freedom that they were fighting for and an emancipation so that they could carry on with their spiritual belief and way of life, which had been completely shut down and overly regulated. And so what they were doing is what we should be doing. And I spoke about this in a previous video about the idea of adopting a philosophy. So what they had and what we have is not only a philosophy, but we have the Torah. We have a clear-cut set of guides, rules, instructions, and philosophical positions that allow us to determine what it is that we're meant to do in any given moment. And there's this codified, appendix, if you will, called the Code of Jewish Law, which many people look at as a book of you must do this and you must not do that. I like to look at it as, I don't know what I'm meant to do in this moment. What does the code tell me this moment requires of me? What should I do and what shouldn't I do? What will be good use of my time and energy and what will not be good use of my time and my energy? When I say energy, I don't just mean my physical strength and ability, but I also mean my soul and my spiritual energy. And so what we do before making decisions or responding to something is do a quick analysis, not of the facts, but of the situation and as it relates to our values and our heritage, halakha, tradition. What is it that I'm meant to do? And for them, it was a matter of they had an obligation to light the menorah in the temple and bring the sacrifices on the altar and to be able to practice Shabbat and keep kosher and perform all the mitzvot, and someone was preventing them from doing that. And completely irrespective as to whether that nation that was preventing it were powerful or not, at some point we don't say, oh, saving a life comes ahead of everything. Saving a life comes ahead of everything, provided that the saving of the life is going to possibly create an opportunity where there'll be more mitzvah in the future. So break Shabbat, get in your car, do whatever you need to do in order to save the life of another person. But we don't just shut the whole Shabbat thing down indefinitely because someone has asked us to, and we say, well, at least they're not killing us. Because what is the point of living if we can't express our spiritual desire and our spiritual quests and our spiritual purpose? And so if there is an angle of being able to achieve what one needs to do spiritually, then one must take that path. The Maccabees saw themselves as having a chance of some sort at actually retaking Jerusalem and re-establishing the temple. And because they had that 1% chance, they decided that they were going to exploit that chance. So what they did was they consulted with the text, so to speak. What does the text of my tradition want from me at this point? And the text of the tradition said, you need to be able to achieve spiritual and religious emancipation and freedom. And at any cost, do what is needed, because what you're dealing with is an oppressive government that is actually going to destroy you either way. And so the obligation to fight back was there. See, here comes belief and hope. So what they did was they believed and they hoped that their actions would yield success and would lead to freedom. So where belief plays a critical role in our journey is not that we sit on a couch and go, well, I believe God's going to look after me. Of course God's going to look after us. Hashem is the master of everything. Hashem is everything. But the way Hashem has designed this world, it's called Teva. Teva is the Hebrew word for nature. Nature is a very carefully but yet simple construction of cause and effect. And we have to initiate causes for there to be effects. Now, sometimes those effects are predictable, which is what we call natural process. But then the whole idea of a miracle. Miracles are also an effect. They are an effect of a cause. They're just called miracles because you don't see any apparent link between the cause and effect. But when we look at the world from a spiritual perspective, actually everything's a miracle. Water falling from clouds is a miracle. Clouds evaporating is a miracle. Sun heating up water. These are the miracles that we call nature. So we can trace the process, but it's no less a miracle. And inexplicable miracles are also miracles. And they are all a result of an initiation process. Some sort of initiative has been taken. And so what the Maccabees did was they took the initiative to take up arms, to head to the mountains, and to try to find a tack that would actually help them break the Greek Assyrian stranglehold. And with the belief that what they were doing is what Hashem wanted, and with the guidance of the texts, they were able to make that really crazy decision, but also they were able to initiate a miraculous process, which would lead to them conquering Jerusalem and reestablishing the temple. So what we take from this is that we need to have a very strong and positive and educated relationship with our philosophy and our tradition. And if we don't have one, we should find people who can help us either get one or that we can consult with. Now, this is about being objective. It's not about, I want this, what does my tradition say? It's about saying, what does the tradition say? And therefore, what do I need to do? Now, this comes all the way through to parenting. This comes all the way through to business. This comes all the way through to escorting people in their last days of life. This goes to the creation of new life. This goes to everything. This is the situation I'm in. What is it that I'm meant to be doing in that situation? Not what do I want to do and can I find a loophole to justify it? Or what don't I want to do? Can I find a law that will protect my desire to not do anything? That's not what the Maccabees did. They didn't say, we want it, is the law going to support us? They said, what does the law want from us? These are Kohanim, these are priests. They are not born fighters. They are born servants of society. We are all a Mamlechas Kohanim. We're all a nation of priests. We are all servants of society. We're all servants of what Hashem has placed in this world. And so it's not for us to say, can I find an angle that will support my desire, but rather, can I make my desire fit that which the text wants? And when we do that, we create what's called a kli. A kli is a receptacle, a vessel. As we take that step, as crazy as it might be, as little percentage of success as it might be attached to it, or as great success, what we're doing is we're creating a kli, we're creating an opening for which the miracle, for which the light, Hashem's energy can flow into our lives and manifest in all sorts of ways. For the Chanukah story, it was the reconsecration of the temple. It was the high priest lighting a small amount of oil that, based on nature, should have only lasted a short amount of time, and yet was able to be stretched to an 8-day long burning, and after which they were able to finally get new oil for the temple. They had to light the menorah to get that 8-day miracle. They had to fight the Greek Assyrians to get the miracle of victory. We have to take steps or be deliberate in not taking steps to receive our miracles. And that will help us understand the difference between hero and naive. A naive person doesn't know what they're doing. They may be overthinking it, they may know nothing. A heroic person is a person that takes a bold step to do something or not do something, not because they want to be bold and heroic, but because the demand on them by our tradition is to step forward or to pause. That's what heroes do. They are able to put themselves aside for the cause.